Today in Oklahoma, people are gathering as well to mark a somber anniversary, 30 years since the bombing of the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in downtown Oklahoma City. It was the worst act of homegrown terrorism in our nation's history at that point. 168 souls lost, including 19 children, with several hundred more injured. Former President Bill Clinton speaking this morning saying, quote, "We owe it to Oklahoma City bombing victims to do better as a nation." Now, Hulu is bringing us the story of when terror struck the homeland. Let's take a look.
The first lady we found, she was dazed from all that just happened. I stopped and knelt down next to her, and she grabbed me by the collar, sucked me down to her nose, put my nose and her nose together, and said, "Young man, there are babies on the second floor."
Horrific. Joining me now is Ceri Isfryn, the director of Oklahoma City bombing, One Day in America. Ceri, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us about this all too important documentary. When did you start working on it, and why was it so important for you to do?
Yeah, I started working on this probably about 2 years ago almost now, and was really making sure that the story of what happened that day is brought to a new generation, because it has been. I watched some of the service today, and to see the 168 names read out, it couldn't be more important right now to make sure that generation who may not have been born at the time know what happened that day and know fully what happened that day.
What was it like, I'm curious, for you to hear President Clinton describe what it was like that day as our commander-in-chief at the time?
When we interviewed President Clinton, one of the things that really struck me actually was that this was clearly very personal for him. I know he mentioned earlier in his words that one of his Secret Service agents was actually killed in the bombing. So you can really tell when we were speaking to him that this was so personal to him, and no the president had quite been in a situation like this. And as you say, it's still to this day the deadliest attack in history.
I'm wondering, doing a documentary like this must have impacted you in so many ways. You heard stories from folks like Amy Downs, who was trapped in the rubble, FBI Special Agent in Charge, Bob Bricks. I'm sure those stick out in your mind, but what else?
Yeah, I think, there were so many harrowing that day. We spoke with Edie Raines, the mother who lost 2 of her children in the daycare. These were harrowing, horrendous stories to hear. But at the same time, everybody we spoke to had some story of resilience and how they overcame what happened to them that day. And I think, that's the thing that maybe surprised me. I didn't really expect to hear that, given the nature of what we were there to talk to people about. And I think, that resilience is there today to be seen in a service day.
Yeah, it was an horrific day. I'm looking forward to seeing what you put together. Ceri Isfryn, thank you so much for your time. Oklahoma City bombing, One Day in America. It's now streaming on Hulu. And we should mention Disney is the parent company of both Hulu and ABC.